Knights of the Old Republic was once the greatest Star Wars game of all time. And it still is. So Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is a video game that tells the story of a Jedi post-Order 66 trying to escape the clutches of the Empire and secure the future of the Jedi. What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. I know I've taken a little bit of a break, had a very busy October, so I needed a little time to decompress, but I'm back, and I figured I would come back in style with a couple of video game reviews, because while I haven't been recording and editing, I've actually been taking some time to play some video games for the first time in months. And we've had a couple of big releases. So we've got this. I also am going to be doing a review for Luigi's Mansion 3, which I quite enjoyed. And I'm going to be doing a review for Death Stranding, depending on when I beat the damn thing. So a lot of video game reviews coming your way this November, as well as some more movie reviews. I'm not changing my channel completely, but nonetheless, if you're a fan of video games, there's some content coming your way. Oh, and to whom it may concern, this video is not for fucking kids. Little inside joke. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just brush past that. So, before I even get into my thoughts on this video game or this universe or these characters or anything else in the world of Star Wars, let me go ahead and just put this little PSA out there. I have absolutely zero interest in arguing or debating with the Star Wars fan community. So, if you are somebody that will not be able to handle any negative criticism, any kind of constructive criticism, anything that's not absolute glowing 5 out of 5 praise on this video game without getting your little pee-pee hurt, do us both a favor and just watch another review. Thank you. Now for the rest of you guys remaining that are mature enough to handle other people's opinions, Jedi Fallen Order was a video game that I had absolutely no interest in playing. It was not on my radar. There has been a slew of Star Wars games that I have played and been very disappointed in, with the exception of Knights of the Old Republic. That might be the only one that I genuinely loved ever, except for like the old school arcade stuff. So just expectations because of being burned so many times in the past. I didn't really have any expectations for this game. When it came out, suddenly everybody was talking it up. Everybody said it's the best Star Wars game ever. It's one of the best games this year, one of the best games of all time, and it really grabbed my interest immediately. I went out day one after seeing all the reviews kind of pop up on my social media while I was at work that Friday. Went out, bought the game and Death Stranding, came back, played it for a solid week, beat the story mode. I've been exploring it a little bit more since then, so I have completed the game. That's a clue to any video game review that I do. That's why it kind of takes a little bit longer. I don't feel comfortable doing it until I complete the game. To me, that's like watching a movie 2/3 of the way through and then coming in with my thoughts. Ignorance. So, I really enjoyed this game. Didn't enjoy it nearly as much as a lot of you. But I'll get into all my reasons why a little bit later on, and hopefully you guys will understand where I'm coming from, be able to respect that. But the good things that this game does, the positives of Jedi Fallen Order. First and foremost, why has it taken so long to get a game like this out of the Star Wars universe? Just a free roaming exploration, platforming action game where you play as a Jedi. That's like the obvious idea for a Star Wars video game. Why? Why is it till 2019 do we get to wait for a game like this? So the whole concept, the way that they kind of approach the gameplay and just the setup of the gameplay for Jedi Fallen Order, that's awesome. That's what I want to do when I play a Star Wars game, is what they give you to do in this game, for the most part. Moving on from that, this game does have a lot of different things going for it that's going to appeal to a lot of different fans. Now, there's something I'm going to get into in my negatives regarding this, but this game does take a lot of concepts and a lot of kind of approaches that other games have done. You got a little bit of Uncharted, you got a little bit of Prince of Persia in here, you got a little bit of God of War, a little bit of classic Star Wars, a little bit of Bloodborne and Dark Souls. So if you're a fan of any of those games, there's stuff in here that you're going to enjoy. There's a lot of platforming and exploration and traversal, there's puzzles, of course there's Jedi action with combat, with kind of more Dark Souls, Bloodborne style combat where you have to kind of time your blocks and your parries a certain way, so it's not just an absolute slash fest where you're going through with the most powerful weapon ever and just laying waste to everybody. there's a lot of different aspects to the gameplay that's going to appeal to a lot of different gamers. I also really enjoyed that this game took place in the era that it did. You know, there's a lot of things that take place, especially since Disney has taken over, in the eras that we already know a lot about. There's always, you know, let's set it with Darth Vader, let's set it with Luke and Leia, let's set it with Han Solo, let's go back here and talk about Yoda some more. And this game kind of goes into that little area of that little dark era between the Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, where the Jedi have basically all been wiped out, the genocide has happened, and now it's kind of about the survival of Hope, the survival of the Jedi, and how we get to the events of Episode 4, or the first Star Wars film. So it kind of takes place in that era where there's a lot to explore, and there's a little bit more darkness in that era, which appeals to me. The game is also massive. It's always a good thing whenever you have a movie tie-in video game that doesn't just feel like you can beat it in 8 hours if you are taking your time and then you're done with it. Like, they put no effort into it. You could spend dozens of hours in this video game. The maps are gigantic. There's a lot of exploration. There's a lot of things that are hidden. There's, you know, different areas that you have to learn skills to traverse to new areas to find hidden chests. And of course you have the story mode where you have these different little missions and different objectives that you have to go through. It's a game that you can easily burn 20, 30 hours if you're just kind of taking your time and have fun with it. And that's a big thing nowadays. When you're asking $60 for a video game, I expect to get my money's worth. You will get your money's worth as far as amount of gameplay out there with Jedi Fallen Order. Now moving on to the mixed aspects, and the main one is the graphics. There's times where this game looks gorgeous. It looks like a very well put together modern generation video game. And then there's spots where you have pop-in graphics, you have pop-in textures. You'll be watching a cutscene and things will look really washed out, and then suddenly in an instant it looks like it's supposed to look. You have a lot of facial animations that don't quite line up as well as they should with the voice acting. The Wookiees in particular just look weird. I mean, there's times when the game looks great. There's time when the game doesn't really look all that impressive, so mixed. And the other one is the story. That was the thing that a lot of people seem to be really, really overpraising to me about this game, was everybody was saying how incredible the story was and how gripping it was and how great it was, and I just didn't see it. There was a lot of things in the story that just felt kind of meandering to me. I mean, you have Order 66 that happens, you have this lone Jedi that's been kind of living in seclusion and not using his force power. Suddenly he's thrust into this adventure with an ex-Jedi who's probably one of the better characters in the game, and you know, just this little band of misfits going on this exploration adventure, and you're just going from planet to planet getting items. You know, I have to go to this planet and get this little ancient thing from this temple, and then I have to go to this planet and get this thing that I need, and then I have to go back to that planet because now I can get into this place, and now I need to go to this place. And it was really just a lot of exploration and going and doing a lot of like what would traditionally be side quests in video games. Going to get particular items is really just the main drive for why you land on all of these individual planets. And the storyline really didn't feel like it went anywhere until like the last hour and a half, depending on, you know, how skilled you are, hour and a half, 2 hours of the game. And things got pretty intense, things got pretty cool, and they left it in a place where I would definitely welcome a sequel to see the expansion of these characters and to see where they go now with what happens at the end. Not that there's something big and grand that happens, but it kind of sets the pace for where this adventure will go if it ever goes further than this game. So there was parts, mostly towards the end of the game, that I felt like the story picked up. The story started to actually be a little bit more engaging, started to have a little bit more tension, a little bit more pace to it. The vast majority of the game, story mode didn't really feel like a story mode to me. It just kind of felt like gameplay with a character. And speaking of characters, I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the mixed aspect as well, because while you do have very good characters in this, some of them are from the movies, not a lot of them. The game certainly doesn't rely on the notable characters from the movies, but you get a couple of good ones in here. You get Sayre, I believe was her name, which is kind of like the ex-Jedi who's kind of taken Cal under her wing, and there's a lot of like pain in her past. There's a lot of mystery there. She has ties to the main villain, the second sister, and there's interesting aspects to her character. There's interesting aspects to her story that was very engaging, and I would like to see more of her story. But it's not her game, it's Cal's game. And Cal might be one of the most bland main characters of a video game that I have played all year. in the last couple of years, honestly. I love Cameron Monaghan. I love what he's done on Shameless, and I've never really watched Gotham, but all of the clips of what he has done with the Joker really makes me want to check it out. So I love him as an actor, and he does very good here with his voice acting and the motion capture and everything, but just the character is just standard Jedi guy. There's not really anything outstanding about his personality. There's not really anything interesting. There's not like this turmoil or this struggle that kind of makes him an interesting dynamic that's different than Luke or different than Anakin. It's just another one of those types of characters, and to me, he never really popped off of the screen whenever I was playing. You know, he's cool to play as because he's a Jedi and he can swing around his lightsaber and do cool force powers, but as a character, never really drew me in. And now moving on to the negatives, and this is where I have a lot of things that to me, either I'm just taking it a lot more harshly than everybody else, or there's a lot of things I'm about to say here that seems like everybody is just kind of ignoring or just kind of, you know, wiping past it because they're excited that it's a Star Wars game. If you didn't have any negatives that I have, then fair enough. You know, we all have different experiences with video games just like we do with movies or music, but it feels like there's a lot of legit things here that people are just failing to mention. The main one, this game is extremely frustrating, and not in a good way. When you have difficulty in a video game, you have two different paths you can take. You can have rewarding difficulty, where the game challenges you and makes you want to keep going and keep practicing, or, you know, find different strategies and finally overcome this challenge and you get a reward for it. And then you have frustrating difficulty, which is bugs or kind of dated aspects in gameplay or overly difficult combat. Everything in this game. The combat, I'll go ahead and start there. I didn't really get the combat until the last hour or so of the game, and I still wasn't perfect at it. And I'm somebody that has played a ton of hack and slash games. I'm somebody that has played Dark Souls. I'm somebody that damn near platinumed Bloodborne, which is one of the more difficult games of this genre. I'm somebody that damn near platinumed God of War of last year, which was a very difficult game. I do know how to play these games. The aspect of this game that's very frustrating is the whole thing with the blocking and the parrying and the block meter, where you have this stamina gauge, and every time you're blocking something and you get hit, this gauge goes down, and when it goes out, you're not blocking anything anymore. They're just going to slice right through you. You have a lightsaber. You have the most powerful weapon in this universe, and it feels so underpowered. I understand they don't want you cutting through everybody and making the game super easy. That's why you have more enemies. You get them with the quantity, not just the power of these individuals. But you have this whole system where you have to block right at the exact moment that you're about to get struck, which is a common thing in games like this, and it will kind of knock that player or that character back for a second, and then you can go hacking away at them and they can't block you. And this is a very meticulous, very specifically timed aspect to the combat that is extremely frustrating. I've played games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne where you have this thing, you have this parry, you have this block, and that is your main focus for this combat. It's not supposed to be, you know, adrenaline fueled hack and slash. It's supposed to be kind of planned out a bit. It's supposed to be a little bit more patient, a little bit more kind of choosing your attacks here and there, and that's great. This game just doesn't really do it as well as it thinks it does. This is a game that has such a specific moment that you have to hit this button that, to me, through 95% of the game, it was much more infuriating than it was rewarding. And I also felt that way about the traversal. Now, I've had a lot of comparisons of this game to Uncharted, and I understand why, because that's the most recent example. To me, all of the traversal mechanics of this game didn't really feel like Uncharted at all. It felt like Prince of Persia, which in and of itself kind of influenced Uncharted, but it felt dated back to those Prince of Persia mechanics. It felt like they took one of the last Prince of Persia games, which haven't really been out in over 10 years, took the mechanics from that and brought it over into the modern age and didn't really do a whole lot to polish it or to make it a little bit more feasible, a little bit more streamlined. You have these little cheap ass deaths that you're used to having in old school platformers or old school Prince of Persia type games, where you have to jump in a certain exact angle to get a rope. If the rope's here and you jump here, you miss the rope completely. You have so many segments in this game where you're doing like this little sliding mechanic, whether it's on ice or mud, where you're kind of doing this little surfing thing and you got to balance, and it's like, That's difficult, annoying shit that dates all the way back to like Sega Genesis games, like old school platformers where you'll throw your fucking controller across the room. And there was many times where these dated aspects of gameplay mechanics just kept making me die and making me die. And again, I'm somebody that is very skilled at video games, so I know when shit like that keeps going down and I keep fucking falling down a ravine, or I keep missing a rope by 2 millimeters, or I keep jumping on a wall and, you know, I'll wall run, but then I'll jump over to this one and I'll miss it by a millimeter. It's like annoying shit like that. That's just not how I want to play games in the modern age. We've moved past all of those annoying difficulty platforming mechanics, but they kind of brought them back for this game. And I don't know why. And that's kind of just an over-encompassing issue with the gameplay to me, is that the game really feels like it rips a lot of things from a lot of different games like I referenced earlier, but each of those individual things that they take from inspiration or they just kind of straight up rip off from all these other great games, none of them are executed as well as any of those other games. So when you play this, if you're a gamer like me and you know where all these different gameplay mechanics come from, they've kind of Frankenstein this game together to make this new experience. So you'll be doing the combat and you'll be playing it and you'll get frustrated and you go, you know, this was done better in Dark Souls, this was done better in Bloodborne. You'll be doing the traversal and that'll get frustrating. You're like, you know, this was done better in Uncharted and Prince of Persia back whenever I played that last one. Or you'll be playing something even as far as like the platforming, and you'll be thinking of other 3D platformers and you go, you know, it wasn't executed quite as well as this one. Again, good game. You're still gonna have fun with all of these things. If you like all these different gameplay mechanics, there's a lot to enjoy here. It just feels like a bit of a mixed bag with things that they have taken influence from, just not quite as polished and not quite as executed well as those other games. And the traversal and the combat are the main two. The game is also so big that to me it becomes cumbersome. Like, I love the fact that it's open world. I love the fact that it's non-linear. You can do your own thing. You can follow the storyline, or you can explore for hours and go your own path if you want to and just kind of have fun with the game, and you play it your own way. And I love those types of games, but the maps are so humongous. And there's no fast travel, there's no menu to take you back to your ship or to go to all these different little, you know, meditation platforms, kind of like in Dark Souls, where you can kind of chill out and you can rest and you can get all your health back, or you can save, or you can do your little skill tree. There's not even a way to jump from those after you've kind of completed a world. So you end up in these situations where it takes you hours to get to the end of this map where you get this item or you meet this person or do whatever objective you're there to do, and then you beat that objective and then you have to trek your ass an hour and a half back to your ship before you can move on with the story. Most games, when you get to this spot, would have a little menu like, do you want to return to your ship, or do you want to keep, you know, exploring this world, or you would have a fast travel or something like that. And it just seems like modern advancements of games like that should be in this game, and I just don't understand the creative reason, other than just annoying difficulty, that they would not have that in here. Now, don't get me wrong, you're still gonna have fun, you know, trekking back to your ship and taking a new route, or opening up new paths with a new skill that you got in this map, where you have like the force pull or the force push or the double jump or something new that you've learned, to where you can kind of take the Metroid route and get to a new door or a new ledge that you couldn't reach before. There's lots of things out there, but it's so cumbersome that sometimes you just want to get back to your ship. You don't want to trek for an hour and a half and then get back to your ship, because by the time you get there, you're like, I don't even remember what the fuck was going on with this story. And speaking of that exploration aspect, where you go and you unlock new chests, or, you know, new doors, or you pull a platform down that you weren't able to access before to get new things, that would be so much more rewarding in this game if the things that you would discover in these little hidden chests were actually useful at all. And this game has none of that. They give you ponchos where you can customize the look of your character. They give you new color schemes for your little droid BD1, or they give you new little pieces for your lightsaber that have absolutely no change to the combat or the power or the use of your lightsaber whatsoever. It is purely cosmetic, and you can only really see the detail of it when you're in the customization menu and the entire screen is filled up with your lightsaber and all the different grips and the ends. Do you want a small hole? Do you want a big hole? Do you want it to be red or green or whatever the it doesn't fucking matter, because nothing as far as customization with your lightsaber impacts the game, and whenever you're running around with it, the lightsaber is this big so you can't even tell. So that stuff, really unrewarding for me. Aside from just getting that much closer to the trophy or the achievement that you're trying to get for unlocking all of these different things, there's just no reward. There's no genuine reward or motivation to do all this exploration aside from just getting your money's worth in the game. And that's something that if they ever do a sequel, they really need to fine tune and do better with, because a game that's just built on exploration where you go through so much time and so much gameplay just uncovering these chests. Why am I doing this if everything that I get in these chests is useless? It doesn't change the game at all. And I mentioned bugs, and there are some in this one. The game it feels like it was about 95% complete when it shipped, which is something that we're kind of used to nowadays. They might release patches. Hell, they might already have patches for it that I haven't even realized, but there are some things with the way the game runs that kind of bug me. You'll have, like I said, the pop-in graphics and everything. You'll have once in a great while where you'll kind of run into the environment where your feet will be inside of a rock, or you'll kind of fall into the environment and you kind of get stuck in like a game glitch, and you have to kind of reset for a moment. I had the game actually crash once, where you get the blue screen, the loading thing, and do you want to report this, yes or no? And then you have to start the whole fucking thing over again from scratch for whatever piece of the game you were in. I actually had a couple of times where you would jump, or you would go to a new place, and this isn't really a glitch, but it was something that really was kind of annoying after a while, where I'll like jump into a room and it'll freeze, and you'll get that little loading bar, and it'll sit there for about a minute, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm playing again. And you'll get shit like that, and it's just, why? In a game like this, you shouldn't have loading screens like that in the middle of anywhere. And even like the genuine loading screens, like when you die, ridiculously long. Like, I know, first world problems. You have to wait a minute before you play this, modern video game. Too fucking bad. But whenever you have a game that's kind of built around combat like this, where, like, let's say you're in a boss battle, and when you start your little checkpoint, you have to go through a cave or jump up onto the ledge, and you have to traverse for a good minute before you get to the boss, and then you fight for 5 to 10 minutes, you die, and then you get back to the respawn screen where it loads for a second. Do you want to respawn? Yes. And then it literally takes between 1 and 2 minutes sometimes for you to load back to where you were, and then you have another 2-3 minutes of traversal, and then you get back to the boss fight, you fight for another 5 to 7 minutes, and you die again. Just whenever you have something that's so difficult like this, where you're going to be dying frequently in combat, really count the seconds whenever you're looking at a loading screen going, I just want to kick this motherfucker's ass. Come on, let's go. Overall, guys, this is a game that a lot of people are going to love because they love Star Wars, because they love taking place in this world and playing in this universe and playing as a Jedi, and I totally get that. If you're somebody where the excitement of all of that and the fun that you had in this world and being able to go through and explore and combat with the lightsaber and even the story kind of vastly overshadows the technical issues or some of the more annoying kind of dated aspects to the gameplay, I respect that. For me personally, it was kind of a 50-50 thing. There was times that I was really enjoying this game. There was times that I wanted to break my fucking controller in half. And I don't like games that have that type of difficulty. Now, I can take very, very difficult games. I'm actually somebody that typically plays on the hardest difficulty, not this game, but I like a challenging experience. I like being able to kind of have that rewarding difficulty. But a game like this that seems like you get a lot of cheap deaths and it seems more frustrating than it is rewarding, I do end up having a mixed experience with it. So this is a game that I enjoyed, and I definitely think they should do a sequel, and I hope that they will learn from this one and make the sequel even better like Ubisoft tends to do. They'll have a first game that's kind of mixed, and then the sequel usually kicks ass. So high hopes that Jedi Fallen Order 2, or whatever they decide to call it, will be a kick-ass game. For me personally, I'm in the minority that this was a very mixed experience for me. So if you're a fan of the Star Wars universe, if you've been waiting for a game like this, absolutely check it out. Just go in with moderate expectations that you're gonna find some things that's gonna frustrate you. There's gonna be some dated aspects to the gameplay. It's gonna be a little bit cumbersome, and you might not jive very well with the combat mechanics that they have in this, but it's still a fun and rewarding experience overall. So what did you guys think of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order? Were you in the end of the camp that thinks that this is the best Star Wars game of all time right out of the gate? Were you on the other end and really did not like this game? Or you were somewhere in the middle like I was, where you really enjoyed parts of it and were really frustrated and annoyed with parts of it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, guys. Let's talk about this game. Have you beaten it? Are you planning on beating it? Was it too frustrating for you? Do you want a sequel to this, or do you want to see a return of the Knights of the Old Republic gameplay? I would really want to see a modern version of that, if you're asking me honestly. But let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, guys. Please like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. If you guys want to check out some social media links, please check the video description below for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and my Patreon page, which is a great way to give back to this channel, help this channel grow, and get cool exclusive content for your eyes only if you decide to become a patron. So check all that out, guys. Actually, right below that too, you can check out my Teespring store that has all of my designs on there for my merchandise created by my good buddy Woody Bowen. I've got Chucky designs down there. I've got the channel logo. I've got Autop Stream, 31 on 31, all that good stuff. All those logos you can throw on a whole variety of merchandise at Teespring. So just scroll down, check out that little shelf. And beyond that, guys, if you want to check out some more of my videos, including Star Wars movie reviews or past video game reviews, you can check those out by clicking right over here.